first of all, I'm going to do a session that has to do with writing a burial agreement. Then I'll do a session that has to do with writing a cremation agreement. So let's start with the burial agreement. Now, a few months ago, we had a two-question COVID questionnaire. Person didn't have to sign; they just had to check no. Now we have a four-question questionnaire, and the customer has to sign off on that. Just to let you know, if the customer checks yes on any of those boxes, you're going to have to wait at least 25 days before that policy can be issued. So you're not going to be paid on it, and more than likely, you're probably going to have to rewrite it. So if you check yes of any of those four boxes, there it is going to be held up. And so if you check no on all those boxes, if it in fact is no, then it will allow you to go forward. So I've dealt with that with some people who basically were like, listen, these people are COVID free. This shouldn't be an issue, but this is just policies and procedures. If you check yes on the box, it's going to get held up. So just know that right off the bat. And so when you're going to into writing a policy, basically initially you have the name of the purchaser and the name of the contract beneficiary. 9 times out of 10, that person is the same. And the reason for that is the purchaser, John Smith, is also going to be the beneficiary of the agreement, of the contract, meaning that that's the person that's going to be getting the coffin, the flowers being picked up and brought to the funeral home, that's going to get the embalming. So the purchaser and the contract beneficiary are generally the same person. Then you're also going to have here the provider, XYZ Funeral Home, the name of the funeral home that's there. You don't have to worry about having a contract number. And so now we just get into the heart of the agreement. So all funeral home agreements have a basic services of funeral staff and directors and overhead. And so that number is going to be illustrated here, $1,895. And there's going to be different prices for different funeral homes. And that's going to include everything from, the funeral directors to the staff, to the vehicles that pick them up, to just anything, restrooms, supplies, whatever the case may be, dealing with the family and the person's services. It's all included in the basic services of the funeral director and staff. Then you also have the embalming. If it's there, in fact, going to be embalmed, that amount is going to go right here. This particular funeral home is $750. There's other funeral homes that I know that charge $1,395 for that. And then you come down here to dressing and casketing. Now, don't worry about the boxes that aren't, filled out. Just worry about the boxes that, are pertinent to you. So dressing and casketing, that's making sure that the person looks good. Makeup, hair, nails, haircut, anything, even if it's restorative. They're in a car accident or they got shot and they need to be restored. That's included in the dressing and casketing. Your viewing, that's going to be included. And sometimes that viewing, you might illustrate, and it depends, on the price list of the funeral home. And I'll talk about that in 1 second, but it could be 1 day, it could be 3 hours, the viewing, and that price is going to be here. And the funeral service, it could be at the funeral home, or it could be at at the other facility, meaning a church or wherever. Even some families have it in their homes. But wherever that is, the funeral home will make sure it gets there. Or it might be a memorial service. They don't want the body present. They just want to have a memorial service and have a picture there. And then you're going to put the number there, and it might be a different amount if it's a memorial service. But when you think in terms of whether this is going to be a 3 hour or 1 day, there's something called a general price list. Every funeral home has one. By law, they have to have one, and that's going to show all of their prices in there. And the general price list has 3 types of prices in the general price list. They have a merchandise price list, and it has to do with the flowers and the transportation to the funeral home, the cost of the hearse, cost of the limousine, the cost of the programs and the registry book. But they also have a casket price list that shows the different prices of the caskets, all the different types of casket selections that they have. The casket price list shows that. And then there's something called the outer burial price list, the outer burial container price list. And that is the outer burial container. I mean, if you remember old cemeteries, where the ground is unlevel and the memorials are falling over. Well, the reason for that is because, at one time, They would take the caskets, put them in the ground, throw the dirt on top of the casket. Over a period of time, the dirt would crush the casket and the ground would become unlevel, making it very difficult to manicure and keep up the lawn. And so now what they do is they put a outer barrel container in the ground. It might be made of concrete or it might be made of concrete and metal, but they'll put that in the ground. They'll put the casket inside the container, put the lid over that, and then now when they put the dirt on, it doesn't crush the casket. It keeps the ground level and manicure it, and it makes it easier, and it just looks nice. So most cemeteries require an outer burial container. Today, it's very few, unless it's a country cemetery that does not ask for an outer burial container. So the general price list has the merchandise, casket price list, outer burial container price list is included. So and that's going to determine, whether this is 3 hours, 1 day, because that's going to be in that price list. Then you come down here, the transportation to come pick a person up. This particular funeral home was a 50-mile radius. They'll come and pick you up, and that's included in this price. It's also in the general price list. The hearse, $375. You got a limousine, one, $325. You have 2 police escorts, so $300. Generally, I don't know where you can get 2 police escorts for $300. This particular funeral home, they have that. Generally, it's $300 or more for 1 police escort. But this is what it is. You look at the general price list, and you can determine what the price is going to be for this. Then you have 2 death certificates. It's $25 in the state of Texas. The first death certificate is always $21. Each subsequent death certificate is $4 each. So if you have 2, 21 plus 4, that's where you get the 25 from. Then you come up here, you need to make sure that you check, if it's a burial, you need to make sure that you check burial, because if you don't check burial, and when I say check burial, you may be doing a paper contract. You just have to check it on your paper. Or if you're doing one online, because you can do it, go into your portal, you can pull up an agreement online and fill it out and send it to the customer. Actually, you can send it to SNL, and the SNL will send it to the customer, and they'll send it to you so that you all can DocuSign it if the customer doesn't want to meet in person. But if you're there, you want to make sure that you check burial. Generally speaking, what you're going to be selling is 20 gauge caskets. And when I say 20 gauge caskets, the gauge of a casket basically speaks to the density of the metal of the casket. And the lower the number, so you want to check steel too, because these are steel caskets. The lower the number, the thicker the casket metal is. And so generally you're going to be dealing with 20 gauge caskets. Most families don't care about that. They just want to know, does it look good? And how much does it cost? So you're going to have, this particular one, you have a 20 gauge casket. It's $2,150. You also, most of your caskets, 9 out of 10 are going to be crepe. Once you start getting to the higher end caskets, then they start getting into velvet, and then even higher, then you start getting into satin. Generally speaking, you're not going to be selling those, but crepe. And then the shell is generally going to be 9 times out of 10 square, because I know most people think that caskets are circular corners, but they're actually square, considered square corners. So you're going to check these 2 right here. And then if they're getting an outer barrel container with their plan, they may or may not. Generally, it's not included in the plan. It's an addition. If they get an outer barrel container, you'll check liner and then concrete, because if it's a concrete container. But if it's a more expensive one, then you'll check vault. This will be in your general price list. And then, you'll check the gauge of the vault, etc. But generally, it's going to be a liner and concrete liner. Those run $650, $750, depending on, $850, depending on what funeral home you're actually dealing with. And so then you also have your stationary cards described. This is generally where your programs are going to go. So your color programs, this particular funeral home is 200 programs, and that costs $270. So you're going to put your color programs here, the number and the amount. You have your registry book, where people sign in. It's only going to be 1. This is what they charge for that, $95. Then you have your thank you cards on this line. These are the cards that people send in, thanking people for helping them through the difficult time. You get 50 for $25. That's in the general price list. And then you have your memorial DVD. This is where the music and the pictures of the person's life is put together and is played before and after that person's service. There's a charge for 125. Now, here's the thing: for some funeral homes, they're going to want the flowers. Casket spray. They're going to want the flowers on the first page. Let's say casket spray and 2 easels. They're going to want that on the first page. And let's say it's $900. Now, the reason why they want it on the first page is because anything that they have on the first page, they're going to get growth from. There's some funeral homes that want growth from everything. And then there's other funeral homes, so we're going to take this off. And you just have to know which funeral home, when you're dealing with them, you'll know which ones, whether they want it on the first page or the second page. There's other funeral homes that want, because they're also going to guarantee this. There's other funeral homes that want the flowers on the second page. And the reason why they want the flowers on the second page is because they use a third-party vendor to provide the services of the flowers. And so they're not necessarily guaranteeing the cost of the flowers. So if you die 30 years from now, it might go up $50 or so. But the big rocks have been moved, meaning for the lion's share, the family's not really going to have to pay anything. Maybe they may have to pay $20, $30 more if that person dies 20 or 30 years from now. But, and death certificates, it's another thing that a funeral home may want to put on the second page. A lot of them want it on the first page, but they may want it on the second page because the state provides the death certificates, and they say, well, we don't know. Some funeral homes, like say, well, we don't know what the state's going to charge 30 years from now. Some funeral homes don't care. They say, listen, we're going to guarantee it. We don't make it, we don't care. I don't think they've changed the price in the last 25 years. But, so the first death certificate is always $21, and each subsequent death certificate is $4. So obviously, if you have two, it's going to be $25. So the first one is always $21. Each subsequent death certificate is $4. So they're getting 10 death certificates for $57, getting casket spray and 2 easels for $850. The total is going to go right here. We call it total cash advance item, non-guaranteed cash advance item. We're saying, listen, we don't necessarily, we're saying we don't know, what the state's going to charge in the next 25 years, but we know that, from past history, it hasn't gone up considerably, but we just can't guarantee that because it's, it's provided by the state. So the total cash advance items is $970. Then you have the total from page 1, should be, just to make this uniform. Okay, I see what it's saying. The total from this page and this here together equals this, $85.97. So you want this total and this total to equal this total. Now, sometimes the funeral home will offer a discount to make this number smaller. Those other funeral homes, they just don't believe in discounts. So whatever number total that is here, that's going to be the total here. And the customer is going to initial right here, and they're also going to initial right here, and I'm explaining that here in a second. But so basically, on this example, it's a 10-year plan because you can do a 10, 8, 5, 3-year plan. This is a 10-year plan. They're going to do a monthly installment, and it's going to be $98.15 a month. Now, this number here shows the total amount that they would pay over 10 years if they took the full 10 years to pay that off. So if you take, 10 years, we know there's 12 months in a year. It's 10 years, so that's 120 months. So basically what you're doing is you're taking, to get that number, you're taking 120 months, because that's 12 months in a year, 10 years, 120 months times 98.15, and you get $11,778. That's where you're getting this number from right here. So this is the least that they're going to pay here. This is the most that they're going to pay here. And that number is going to change based on the person's age. If they're younger, if they're 30, basically, those numbers are almost going to be identical. But the older you are, there's something called cost of risk. You know, the older you are, the more risk you are. And so even though this 9815, that number is never going to go up. You know, their benefits are never going to go down. The cost of this is never going to go up. But probably of that 9815, $1.70 of that is something called cost of risk. It's not interest, it's cost of risk, meaning what the company is trying to do is recapture some of their money in the event that this person passes away. And so, now here's the thing: if you pay that off early, like for example, if you paid it off day one, you just paid the $85.97. That's all you would pay. That number goes away because you're not paying any cost of risk, the risk of insuring you. But if you pay it off in year one, you're not going to pay anywhere near that because they're going to cut off all that future cost of risk. So you pay it off in year two, you're not going to pay all of this because they're cutting off all that future cost of risk. But if you take a full 10 years to pay this out, this is the most you'll pay, this is the least you'll pay. And that's how you explain it to a customer. So they're going to sign right here that this is the most they'll pay. They'll sign here too that this is the least they'll pay. You don't have them sign here at the bottom. You don't worry about that. So then you go here and you skip these two pages here. You can read over those, just talking about defaulting and the general provisions, contract definitions. But if you come right here, this is the 20-day free look period. And you let them know, listen, this is your 20-day free look period. But listen, if you want to cancel for any reason, you let me know. If you have a dream and Jesus tells you, that he's going to rapture you, let me know, and then I'll rip this up. So obviously they know Jesus is not going to more than likely rapture them anytime in the near future. So they're going to need this. They generally laugh because it is funny. And then they'll sign off right here. But it gives them some comfort to know that, hey, listen, for whatever reason, if they want to change their mind, they can. And I have no problem with this. So then when you get to this page here, then after that, the 20-day free look period, now you have your state disclosure page. Even though we're giving them 20 days to cancel, the state actually gives them 3 days to cancel. We just give them more, but that state wants them to know that they have 3 days to actually cancel. So you want to make sure that you put the date, let's say it's the 27th of June, 2020, because if you don't put the date, they will definitely kick that back. And then the customer is going to sign here, the customer social security number, the customer's printed name, their phone number, their address here, city, state, and zip goes here. And then their name again under contract beneficiary. You don't have to put the address and everything again, but put their name again as the contract beneficiary. But just make sure that they sign off right here. Then on this side, you're going to have the funeral home provider. So this is where it talks about the funeral home actually has to sign off on the agreement. The funeral home will sign off on the agreement. The funeral home owner, our representative, will place their name here. This is the funeral home's address goes here. You got to make sure you put those things in there. The city, state, and zip of the funeral home. And then on this here, you actually need to put, your name, agent's name right here. And so then, the agent will sign their name right here, and then they'll print their name right here. This information is already there, and then you don't worry about signing there. You just sign here and print your name right there. That's all that's done on this particular page. Now, this particular page, this is irrevocable assignment and waiver of rights under life insurance policy to be used for public assistance recipients only. So, you really don't have to fill this out. Now, if you're using a paper contract, you won't even see this sheet. But basically, what this is when people are trying to get benefits with the government, this sheet gives them a pass, because what the government will do is make people do something called a spin down. When they're looking to get benefits from the government, they will make them get rid of their insurances. Now, they won't make a pre-need, a family get rid of a pre-need because it's considered irrevocable, meaning they're not going to try to take this pre-need and get money from it. It's going to be used for the sole purpose of burying that person. The reason why you really don't need to fill this out is because in Texas, irrevocable is already included in the pre-need. So it's inferred, if you will. And so you don't really have to fill this out, but it's here, so I'm speaking about it. So I just have the name of the funeral home, the name of the policyholder signature, funeral home signatures, insurance policy number, uh, name of the insured, if other than the policyholder, and they normally are the policyholder, and then an authorized person from Security National Life will sign off on this. But the fact is, really, you don't need this. This right here is a way of determining, if you don't have the payment calculator, of the cost of the premium for a person. So for an example, let's say that a person has a premium that is $5,000, and the person is 45 years old. So, and they're going to do an 8 pay, meaning they're going to take 8 years to pay this out. So you want to go to 45, you're going to go over here to 8 years, and let's say their plan is $5,000. So let's see here, where's my calculator? So you have a calculator. So their plan is $5,000. They're 45 years old. They want to take 8 years to pay it off. So you want to multiply that $5,000 times 0.01191 equals $59.55. So that's how you get your total premium amount. So you come to the age of the person, the year of how many years they want to pay, and the dollar amount. So again, let's say the person is 55 years old, and their payment, their total plan price is $6,000. So you got 55 years old. Let's say they want to do it for 8 years. So you want to take that $6,000 plan and multiply it by 0.1445. 0.1445 equals $86.70. So that is the total of your premium. That's how you can use this page to calculate your premium. Don't worry about this part right here. Even when you're using the calculator, we don't use the bump. It's not really, to me, it's not a benefit to the customer. But just worry about this here if you ever need to use this for whatever reason. That's how you determine the premium price. And then you come here to the application page. So the application page, now you have your date of birth. And you don't have to, I never check any of these things up at the top here. You can check individual life insurance, but I never check any of that stuff ever. But you have the name of the insured. You can put their middle initial, their name if you like, the last name, and then their date of birth, their age. So let's say that person is 48 years old. I have gender here. Definitely their gender is not 50. Let's say the gender is John Smith is male. And then their address, 1245 South Manson Lake Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75194. Their telephone number is 469-833-2455. Their social security number is 807-66-2405. And so you're just putting that information right in there. You need to make sure you have that information in there. Now, let's say here, if they're not so if this is a son who's paying, and not only just paying, but he's the owner of the policy, meaning that his mother or grandmother, they don't have the cognitive faculties to even sign off on an agreement. They don't even know they're getting a pre-need. So this person is the owner, and he has an insurable interest in the life of the person that he's getting the pre-need for. He would put his name here as the owner, John Smith Sr. or Jr., John Smith Jr. That's senior. And then his address here, his city, state, zip, his telephone number, his relationship, son. And, I don't do a lot of those. Most of my people, they buy their own pre-need plans. But on occasion, you'll have a parent that'll buy a pre-need for their son, or a wife will buy the pre-need for the husband, and they're the payer, meaning that it's coming out of their bank account. So if a person other than John is paying for the pre-need, you have to list this person as the payer. Now, just because they're paying for it doesn't mean they're the owner. They just mean they're the payer. It's coming out of their bank account. So you want to put their name. It might be Jill Smith. You know, the address is going to be the same. You know, so you put same address. And then, you know, telephone number, you know, 469. Oops. Let's try that again. 469-223-8705. Relationship, wife. So now here's the thing too. You have her information here as the payer, primary beneficiary. That's the person that, because this policy, you know, let's say the policy is for 8772. If this person dies in an accident, John dies in an accident, the primary beneficiary is going to get a check for $8,572 plus whatever the funeral amount price is here and the face amount. The person, if this person dies, John Smith dies in an accident, that person is going to get a check for that denomination, plus the funeral services are going to be paid as well. You must have a primary beneficiary here for that to be approved, for this agreement to be approved. You can have up to 2 people. So you can put, you know, Jill Smith here. You can also, you know, put, you know, Cynthia Smith. It might be his daughter. So, you know, and Cynthia Smith. Now what I'll do is I'll put wife/daughter. And then here, you're going to ask them the questions as relates to, now, are you now in hospice care, a patient of the hospital of any kind? Obviously, if you're right there with them, you know they're not in the hospital, so you're going to click no. Have you ever been diagnosed by a licensed professional with having AIDS-related syndrome, HIV? You know, so no, if they answer no. And then in the past 5 years, have you been tested positive for any of these things? You know, and generally what I'll ask is this, you know, do you have diabetes? Yes or no? Okay, great. You know, do you, and I'll tell them, this doesn't mean you don't get this. I just need to ask these questions. Do you take medicine for high blood pressure? Oh, yes. You know, have you had cancer in the last 5 years? No. Okay, so if they say they just have diabetes but not high blood pressure, then what we're gonna we'll click no, and then that's going to determine what we click down here. But if they say, hey, listen, I have high blood pressure and diabetes and I take medicine for both, and that's really the important thing. Are you taking medicine for high blood pressure? No, I'm not. Well, then you want to ask them the question, are you prescribed medicine for high blood pressure? Because basically what we're going to do is an investigation to see what medicine they're taking. Because they might have been prescribed medicine for high blood pressure, but they just don't take it. You know, they're just like, I don't need it. I'm not going to take it. But they've been prescribed. So you want to ask, have you been prescribed medicine for high blood pressure? No. Okay, great. But if they say they've been, if all the answers to the question is no, then you're going to come here, depending on what plan they choose, whether it's a 10-pay, 10 years, 8-pay, 8 years, you're going to mark the number of years that they determined that they wanted to pay. You don't want to come over here. This is a dollar for dollar plan. This is something totally different. This is when they can't be insured. They're uninsurable. But we can set up like a savings account for them. And you can take 1 year to pay that, 3, 5, 10 years. And where it's just dollar for dollar. What you put in is what you get out, you know, but you're uninsurable, so we'll allow you to do that. And so if you mark all 3 no's, then they're going to be considered what is called full benefit. And full benefit is you're fully covered from day one. There's no waiting period from day one. Now, even if they're covered from day one, keep in mind that, with all insurable products, there is a contestability period that's 24 months. And what does that mean? If a person's fully covered from day one, but yet they die, a year into their plan, and they're within the 24 months of contestability. And so what that basically means is just the insurance companies have the right to investigate and look at the medical records of the insured to make sure that they weren't lying, that they didn't have cancer, but they lied, said they didn't have cancer, when they knew that they did have cancer. So they'll do a short investigation if you die within the first 24 months to make sure that you weren't lying on your application. But once it gets past the 25th month, then there's no investigation. You're fully covered with your plan. So if you're saying no to everything, they're going to do an 8-pay full benefit. All answers must be answered no to the questions. And then if it's a limited benefit, meaning that, let's say here they have high blood pressure and diabetes, so you're going to mark yes. So that's going to be considered limited. And what that means is for the first 24 months, if something were to happen to them, they're going to get what they put into the premium. They're going to get return of premium plus 10% compounded interest. So, they're going to get what they put in plus interest earned. They're never going to lose money. And there's not a lot of places you can go and get 10% interest. So, they're never going to lose money on this. So it's either going to be a full benefit or a limited benefit, or it might be a single pay right here, a flex pay, but more than likely you're going to either have single pay, full benefit, or limited benefit. Then you come down here, you have these two amounts are always the same price. The funeral amount and face amount, they're always the same thing. The initial amount and the periodic amount. The initial amount, their first installment and their subsequent periodic installment, monthly installment, that number is going to be the same as well. 95.15. And 98.15 and 98.15. Billing mode, EFT, that's automatic draft. You have direct bill and you have your credit card. Now I'm going to talk about, because depending on how this is set up, this is going to determine what you're going to receive as far as your commission. Generally speaking, if you do EFT, that's going to be 80% that you're going to get. If you do direct, bill or credit card, you're going to look at about 50% that you're going to be advanced. Credit, and the reason for that is direct bill people, they end up not paying. Credit cards, they decline, they expire. Checking accounts don't expire. They tend to stay on the books, so you're going to get a higher advance. Now I'm going to talk about commissions and how they work, but if a person is 35 years and under, you're going to get a 30% advance on your commission, just because people who are 35 and under tend to just fall off the books. They're just irresponsible, if you're 35 and under, if a good movie comes out, the Avengers 2 or Justice League 2, you might, stop paying on your pre-need just to get some extra popcorn. If you're typically older, 38 and up, people hang on to that, but when they're younger, they don't. So, but you always want to try to do EFT, through the checking. And so here's an option. You talk to the person. Once they say they want the pre-need plan, they choose which plan they want. Do you want to have the money taken upon approval? Or do you want to, let's say they set up, they want their payment to happen on the 15th and it's the 8th, or the 1st of the month. Do you want it to go ahead and, is the money there? Do you want us to go ahead and be able to take the money so you can go ahead and start being protected? Or do you want to wait until the 15th? If they say, no, you can go ahead and take it now, boom, take the money, draft upon approval. If they say, no, I need you to wait till the 15th because there's no money there right now, then you tell them, no, do not draft upon approval. Do not draft until the 15th. It's going to be a monthly draft, and this is going to be the bank account, And so this is going to be, this is Chase Bank, and, this is the account number. And they're both, these are just made up account numbers, but, Chase Bank account number, routing number. Is it going to be a checking? Is it a savings? When you put John Smith. Now, in this case, remember, we said that Jill Smith was going to be the payer. So Jill Smith name is actually going to be right here. She's the payer. If John Smith was the payer, his name would be here. And you wouldn't have to put anything about payer there because he's the payer. But since Jill is the payer, her name's going to go here, and Jill is going to sign right here. Now, do you have an existing life insurance policy or annuity contract? That's always going to be no, because we're not even getting into that. I don't even discuss that with the customer, what they have and they don't have. I'm not trying to hear hear about that. I'm just there to talk to them about pre-need. That's always going to be no. If that's not no, you're going to, now that's going to create a whole bunch of other issues. Then you're going to come down here. Where was the agreement done? Was it done in Dallas? Then you're going to put Dallas, Texas. And then you want to date the agreement, whenever that was, 6/27/20, 6/27/20. Those dates have to be consistent throughout the agreement. Then you also going to have the insured. They're going to sign right here. They're not going to. They're not. Owner signature if different from the insured, meaning your grandmother has Alzheimer's and she can't process information. Then you as the owner, you're going to sign here. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the insured that's going to sign right here. Then you as the agent, you're going to sign here. You're going to print your name, and then you'll put your agent number that's right here. Then this, if you do it online, where you're not in front of the customer, but you're actually sending a DocuSign document, then you need to put the insurer's name and the insurer's email address to be sent out. The payer's name and payer's email address, because remember, the insured and the payer may be 2 different people, are the owner's name and the owner's email address. Normally, it's just the insured names and the insured's email address. You don't have to worry about these others. But if the owner, once again, if there's a different owner, their email address, who's going to be signing off on this? Whoever needs to be signing off needs to receive an email. The agent's name, agent's email address, the funeral home's name, funeral home representative name, and their email address. It needs to go in here as well if it's going to be a DocuSign. And then you have the child pet protection. What this means, in the event the death of a child, stepchild, grandchild, step-grandchild, great-grandchild, step-great-grandchild, that they are protected up to $5,000. And what that means, this is, and I'm going to put here XYZ funeral home. So how this works is the protection goes from age 1 to age 18. So if they die as an infant, it's not included, but from age 1 to age 18, if a person passes, the way this works is this: as a person puts money into their plan, that money accumulates. And if one of their grandchildren pass away, or their children that's under 18 passes away, that money that they put into that plan is going to go to that grandchild, but they're not going to lose their benefits. But their coverage is going to, up to $5,000, is going to extend out to them. And so what they're going to do is they're going to put their name, or you write their name here at the top. They're going to put their initial right here. And then you're going to put the date, June 26th. So you have the purchaser's signature, John Smith. And I said signature date, 27th, June 2020, John Smith. And the agent's signature, you're going to sign right here. And the funeral home signature, funeral home has to sign off on this as well. And the funeral home is going to sign right there. So that is, you can go back over this and review that, but that is, in a nutshell, the burial agreement and how that is filled out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.